to Cali. I don't think so. I'm going back to Cali. 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 I'm going back to Cali. I don't think so.
Sunny California, the place where dreams come true. Sun is always shining, birds are always singing, and there's a star on every corner, where the surf is always good and the party never ends. But what they don't tell you about is the earthquake. Earthquakes happen every day, and as a Californian, you learn to get used to them. But have you ever stopped to wonder what an earthquake really is or what causes them? Earthquakes come in three main forms and can occur on a convergent boundary, divergent boundary, or a transform fault. A convergent boundary is when one plate is forced over another. A divergent boundary is when the plates are forced apart. A transform fault is where one plate slips past another. Earthquakes can also produce two different types of waves. The first type of wave is the P wave. P waves are formed from alternating compressions and refractions. P waves are often the first waves to be recorded because of their high velocity. To measure earthquakes, scientists use the Richter magnitude scale and the seismograph. The Richter scale was developed by Charles F. Richter. It is used to rate the magnitude of an earthquake. The scale runs from 1 to 10, 10 being the greatest. The most famous fault in the world, extending 800 miles through California and running 10 miles deep. San Andreas. The San Andreas Fault is where two plates meet, the North American and Pacific Plate. Although the last major quake on the San Andreas Fault was in 1906, it is commonly believed that the big one that will end California will happen on this fault.
These giant gashes in the Earth are reminders of our planet's awesome power. They are fault lines, fractures in the Earth's crust, where huge slabs of rock slowly grind past each other. Most faults we can't see, but here in California, the San Andreas Fault is visible at the surface.
But scientists now believe the big one will occur on a much smaller, lesser-known fault, the Puente Hills Fault.
University professor and seismologist John Shaw and University of California at San Diego professor Peter Shearer used this data as a foundation for further study. Based on their work, in 1999 they published an important report revealing the existence of the previously unknown Puente Hills Blind Thrust Fault. It runs 25 to 30 miles from northern Orange County through downtown Los Angeles and all the way to Beverly Hills. Seismologists now believe the 1987 Whittier Narrows quake was actually a partial rupture of the Puente Hills Fault. Subsequent study revealed it has ruptured many times over thousands of years.
We're standing above the eastern end of the Puente Hills Blind Thrust Fault. You can't see anything where we're walking right here. But the reason the road behind me rises up is because this hill behind me has been uplifted in hundreds of earthquakes on the Puente Hills Blind Thrust Fault.
California Earthquake Center commissioned seismologist Robert Graves to create a computer model of probability scenarios. By feeding it with data about the fault's characteristics and the geological conditions throughout the LA area, it shows how a Puente Hills thrust fault rupture would spread.
What we're looking at in the animation is we see the ground begins to shake as the earthquake starts, and there's some small ripples, and they begin to propagate out from the area around the epicenter. What is very striking is that as the waves propagate away from the earthquake, they are actually interacting with the geologic layers in the sedimentary structure of the LA basin. The waves become trapped and they start bouncing around, and they actually build up very large ground motions, very large waves.
According to
A 7.5 earthquake on this fault could be worse than that of one on San Andreas. It could kill 18,000 people, leave hundreds of thousands homeless, and cause up to $250 billion in damage. And the violent shaking would be amplified because of the soft soil under the Los Angeles basin. Scientists believe a major quake happens on the Puente Hills fault every 2,500 years, but they don't know when the last one was.
As the extent of the quake becomes known, the numbers are staggering. Scientists have fed data into specially designed computer programs that run worst-case scenarios.
It certainly will be a force to be reckoned with like we haven't seen before, certainly not in California.